Okay, I have my two lining panels. So one of them has got my pockets already attached. The other one has no pockets, and I also have my lining base. So to start with, I am going to just make a couple of marks. I'm just going to fold my lining panels in half widthwise to make a mark in the centre on the wrong side so that I know where the centre of that panel is. And I'm going to do the same with the other panel. Just making a small mark. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the base panel, folding it sort of short curve to short curve, and I'm just going to give it a finger press and then mark the centre. And then I'm going to do the same, pressing it along the long curve, finger pressing, so that I can get centre marks on both ends. So that's all the marking up I need to do. Now I need to lay my two lining panels right sides together. And what you must make sure is that excuse me, I have a rogue cat, wants to be a movie star. Make sure that you've got them both the right way up, because the top edge is slightly larger than the bottom edge. If you haven't got them the right side up, your lining will not fit within the exterior of your bag. So do make sure that the 13.5-inch edge are at the top, because that's what you need. So we're going to stitch these together using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Both sides, so you can clip if you want to. I'm not going to. I generally don't if I can get away with it, but if it makes you feel more secure, then please do clip. Just going to turn the iron on. The back side, top and bottom. Grab my, I'm not sure what I've just thrown on the floor, but let's not worry about it. Grab my ironing pad, and I'm just going to pull that out of the way so that I can open those side seams and press them open. This just makes it easier for the next stage. It also helps your lining to sit nicely, because once you've put it all into the bag, it's actually quite difficult to press the lining because of the way the zipper panel is constructed. So it's easier to do as much of the pressing now as you can do. And I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. Just push that seam open and press it. I'm guessing that was my scissors that went for a ball of chalk just now. Yes, let me just grab those. Okay, so now I have effectively a complete loop with the side seams opened. Let's get rid of that. And I'm going to take my base, and I'm going to match up that centre mark on the longer side with the centre mark on the base of one of my lining panels. It doesn't matter which one. And I'm going to match them right sides together. So I'm matching them. Let me just turn that around so you can see. So there's the base of my bag, and I'm matching the centre mark, which is there, with the centre mark on my lining panel, and I'm going to clip it together. So I'm just going to put a few clips in along. Hello pussycat. I'm not quite sure what he wants, but he's being quite vocal, so the likelihood is he'll jump up on the table again. So having matched one side, I'm then going to take the same process on the other side. So I'm matching the centre mark with the centre mark on my lining panel. And I'm just going to clip just along the long side. It always seems like a laborious process putting in an oval bottom because of all this matching. But if you don't match, everything gets twisted inside of the bag and it really, really doesn't look great. So it's well worth making the effort to do this. So the end, mark on the end of my base panel, I'm going to match up with my side seam. And I'm just going to, making sure that that side seam stays open where I've pressed it open. I'm going to clip it. I'm going to do exactly the same on the other end. Matching the side seam. Once I've done that, you can see these cornery bits or these curves are not attached. This is where we have to ease those curves in. So a little bit of careful manipulating. And you should find that your curves will go perfectly against the edges of your lining panels. Now bear in mind that you're trying to fit a curve to a straight edge, so you may get a little bit of bubbling, but that will come out once you've clipped rather. So we're going to just fit those, ease those curves around the base of our lining. That's one end. Some more clips. There is no right amount of clips for this. It really is. I like to use a lot of clips when I'm doing ovals because they do move. And when they move, it all goes horribly wrong. The straight edges are okay, it's the curves. And there's nothing looks worse than a puckered curve on an oval base. Even on a lining, I really feel quite strongly that linings need to be as tidy as the exterior. I know oftentimes we tend to rush our linings to get our bags finished, and that seems like such a shame. It's such a wasted opportunity because as a bag user, I spend more time looking at the lining of my bag than I do looking at the outside of my bag. So I think it's important. So there we go, that's all fully clipped in place, and I'm now going to stitch that in place using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So let's just put my clip pot over here. This is a lot easier to stitch in place than the base of the bag because you don't have all the additional stabilizers and what have you in there. So you can just literally sew it. Of back stitches. And again, manipulate the lining as you go around the curves. Don't let the lining tell you what to do. You are in charge. This is only fabric and interfacing. You can squish it and push it and pull it and do whatever you want to it. It's not gonna, it doesn't have feelings. So don't be afraid to pull it to where you want it to be. Try and make sure that those side seams stay open as you stitch over them. very difficult to see because the rest of the bag's kind of getting in the way. Bit of a burst of speed there. Foot too heavy on the pedal, happens sometimes. Keeping the seam allowance open as I go over that side seam on the exterior, on the main lining panels. All the way around. Back to where you started. Now I like to, before you make any cuts into the seam allowance, just turn it in the right way and make sure that everything's sitting nicely and you haven't got any gathers around your base, because if you have, you can, this is the perfect time you can kind of unstitch. Your friend the seam ripper will help you, and lots of threads, but I don't appear to have any puckers. That's good. So I'm going to just turn it back in the right way, in the wrong way rather. And I'm going to take my scissors, and again, as we did before, I'm going to make little triangular notches all the way around the outside, or I think my pinking shears might actually be okay for this, or you can use your pinking shears. These are very old and they're okay on fabric, but they're no good on faux leather. It just doesn't work. So this will just take out the bulk from that curve and help it to sit nicely when you put it in your bag. So if you don't need to do this at the straight sides, just the curved ends. So that's those curved ends all nicely clipped. I'm going to turn this in the, whether you'd call this the right way, but it's right sides out. And I'm going to pop it, use a tailor's hammer. I'm just going to press along all of those seams that I've just made. It will just help this to sit nicely. So the long side seams, you kind of have to do this fairly slowly because you need to get into all of the curves and get them all sitting nicely. If I haven't got my tailor's ham to hand, then I will just roll up a tea towel and put it inside. Those of you that have done sew-alongs with me before know that I'm a great fan of using tea towels for stuff that they don't really belong to be meant to be used for, but it's something that we all have. I didn't have a tailor's ham for a long time, And then I've been really lucky because actually I was given one by one of the ladies doing the sew-alongs. And then I was given another one by a lady who came for a one-to-one lesson. And then, bless her, I actually got given another one by one of my super duper testers. A different shape though, slightly different shape. So I actually have a collection of them now in different shapes and sizes, which is always useful. It's just a question of getting the ham into those sort of curves so that I can get round all the bits that I need to get to. And that's fine, I'm happy with that. So now I can turn it back in the right way. Or back in the wrong way, should I say. Right, now we're going to attach our top zipper with the facing panel to our lining panel. Now this is where it gets a little bit complicated. First of all, open the zipper in the lining so you can get your hand through. I'm going to say that again quite loudly. Open the zipper in the lining. There is another opportunity later on, but if you do it now, you know it's done. And I have my lining sitting on the table so that the zipper pocket is away from me. I'm going to do this back to front and I'm going to turn it around so that you can hopefully see. Let me just raise this up a little. You can see my double chins as well. Sorry. So I've got my lining sitting, so it's wrong side out. The zipper pocket is towards me, so it's actually away from me, away from you. And basically I want, can I do this the right way around? Let me just see if I can do this the right way around. I'm getting confused with myself. So that's going to go that way. That's going to go that way. That's okay. Right, so if I do this so that you can see it the way that you would see it when you were doing it for yourself. So if you've got the lining sitting on the table, the side with the zipper is actually away from you. The side without the zipper is towards you. Ignore the fact that it's the opposite way around for me. I'm trying to show you the way it will look for you. Take your zipper panel and have it so that the zipper will be on the left hand side. It's on the right hand side for me because I'm doing it back to front. So your zipper pull, so the closed zipper pulls would be on the left hand side. So for me they'll be over that side if I'm doing it the right way around, and just kind of drop it onto the top of your lining, and that will give you an idea of how that's going to be. So the facing is above and the zipper panel is the right way up, so it's, you can see, right way up, and bring it down onto the top. Now the easiest thing for me to do, I just slide that in and take those two side seams. So that's the, once I've got it orientated the right way round, bear in mind that your zipper panel is always going to be facing upwards and out of your lining. I'm going to match those two side seams. So the side seam on my facing panels and the side seam on my lining need to be matched together. And I'm going to go in here, I'm going to grab the same on the other side. So the side seam on my facing panel and the side seam on my lining panel clip together. And then I'm just literally going to match up all the way around again, the same as we did before. And I'm just going to clip into all of my curves. So just easing it round. This time, however, you're attaching all the way around of the lining and the facing. You still don't have to attach that zipper panel, that central zipper panel. That central zipper panel is completed. It doesn't attach to anything in the finished bag. So I do the two sort of curves on each side, and then it pulls it tight so that you can actually put the clips on the straight edge. You can see that. I'm going to turn it round and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I think the most difficult part of this is actually getting the zipper orientated correctly onto the lining so that your zipper runs left to right and your pocket is on the back of your bag. Now, if you're a left-handed person, you need to make sure that your zipper panel is actually orientated the other way around so that your zipper panel runs like right to left. Or if you're custom making for a left-handed person, it's nice to be able to make a bag that the zipper runs the way that actually feels most comfortable for them. So always nice to custom build. Okay, so now we've got it's completely clipped on. You can see it's just the facing that's clipped onto the lining. That centre zipper panel, if I undo the zippers, is still not attached to anything. Do not attach this to anything, this edge. If anything, just pop it down inside of the bag to keep it out of the way. So you're now going to stitch all the way around, and you can follow the stitch line that you already did when you stitched your facing to your zipper panel, because you're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance again. And if you just follow the same seam line, it's a lot easier. Going all the way around again. Get rid of these threads. We're going all the way around this facing panel where we've done our stitching already, effectively we're attaching the facing to the lining with the zipper panel sandwiched between. Make sure as you stitch across you leave those seam allowances open, just keeps the thickness out of this, helps it to sit nicely. And then you get to where you started, a couple of back stitches, and you're finished with that. Get rid of any threads, and then we are going to, no surprises, clip again to get these curves to sit nicely. Again, if you wanted to use pinking shears, you could do. My pinking shears won't go through this amount of faux leather. In fact, my scissors are struggling too, to be honest. I think it's time to get my decent scissors out. Just be careful you don't cut into your seam allowance here, into your stitch line, sorry. There are a few thicker bits here where we've attached the ends of our zipper panel, so you will find that it's quite stiff. You can trim off a little bit from the very end where you've got your seams if you want to. And get more lovely confetti for weddings in the future. I feel desperately sorry for those that have had to cancel weddings through this rather unfortunate time. But I guess it's something to look forward to for future reference. I just think when you're young and you're in love and you've made all the plans, it must be horrific to have to cancel. I wonder if a second attempt will ever feel quite the same, because you've kind of missed the day that you planned for. So there we go. Now I've got a whole load of this stuff, which I'm going to... Anybody else do that? Or are you really good and put it all in a nice bin? Not me. So we now have our zipper panel attached to the top of our lining panel. So you can see that there's my zipper panel with the facing, and there's my lining panel sitting out of the bottom of it. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to open my zippers and I'm going to do a bit of top stitching. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically push my seam allowance from where I've actually attached the facing and zipper panel and lining up towards the top of the facing panel, and I'm going to top stitch on the inside around the edge of the facing panel. So not on the zipper panel, on the facing panel, with that seam allowance all facing upwards towards the edge. I've got threads here everywhere. Where are these all coming from? No thread contraception problems here, I know. Okay, so let's go in and start this. And I'm going to start with long threads, top and bottom, so that I can tie off my threads at the end so that I don't have any ugly back stitching. Now, if you've got a Teflon zipper foot, that's sometimes useful for this. I just prefer to, I'm quite happy to use my ordinary Teflon foot because it's not particularly wide, but it's a personal preference thing. I'm just going to increase my stitch length a wee bit, and I'm going to start stitching carefully. Again, pull it all out so that you can get to where you need to stitch. Remembering to keep your seam allowance all facing towards the top of your lining facing panels. When you get to where the zippers are, just be careful you're going slowly because you're going to have quite a lot of thickness there. All the way around. So take it slowly because you want this stitching to look nice. It's going to be visible. And this is what helps your zipper panel to sit beautifully within the top of your bag. When we get to the end, try and finish off in the same stitch hole as you started. If you can't, then nearest damn is good. And again, we've done this several times now, so you should know how to do this. We're going to take the top thread through to the wrong side using a self-threading needle, and I'm just going to tie them off on the wrong side. Right, now I think you can see there the stitching is about 1/8 of an inch away from the very edge of the zipper facing, and it goes all the way round, and it helps that facing to sort of sit nicely within helps the zipper panel rather to sit nicely within the facing, so there's no sort of odd edges. It curves the facing in towards the zipper panel, which is really nice. You can, if you find it's really difficult, you can actually leave that stitching out, but I think it will affect the way the zipper panel sits within the top of the bag in the long run. If you don't do that, I think it just makes it sit nicely, and it gives it structure. So you can see now that the zipper is sitting beautifully within the top of our lining. So I'm going to come back to you, and we're going to do our final construction of the exterior and putting the exterior and the lining together. I've got threads galore here, so I'm going to trim off all the threads, and I'm going to come back to you and show you how we put this bit inside of this bit.